Kern Valley State Prison first opened its doors in 2005 and houses over 3,100 minimum, medium, and high security custody inmates. On September 19, 2024, at around 7:20 p.m., staff would discover incarcerated person Jacob Cobber in his cell with his cellmate Matthew Perez unresponsive with serious injuries. Staff would immediately initiate emergency response and would call 911, and although life-saving measures were performed on Cobber, he was sadly pronounced deceased at 7:52 p.m.
On the Crime Watch, the efforts to fight gang crime as Salinas city leaders are getting ready for a trip to the nation's capital next week in an effort to curb gang crime as Monterey County leaders put some new ideas on the table. Action News reporter Felix Cortez is live tonight in Salinas.
Well, Dan, late this afternoon, county supervisors approved 18 gang prevention programs, recommendations for preventing gang violence. Tops among them saving a popular gang prevention program and working together to combat youth violence. Many of the Monterey County leaders responsible for the programs and strategies aimed at preventing or combating gang violence were brought together Friday morning to explain to county supervisors how they're doing just that with fewer resources. Sheriff Scott Miller was among them.
You have to create the opportunity to fund the things you have to fund. You have to decide what's most important. For example, we know we need a gang task force, a multi-agency gang task force. We figure out how we're going to fund it.
Two common themes emerged from the special meeting. More funding is needed, and the Silver Star Prevention Program, which steers at-risk teens away from the gangs, needs to continue operating. But the county doesn't have much leeway when it comes to extra money. So that means taking away from other programs to keep Silver Star alive.
We believe so strongly in the Silver Star program and the services that are being provided that we are closing the repeat offender prevention program and redirecting that funding source to the Silver Star program to keep it going.
Manny Riel says Silver Star is serving more families and youngsters, which is a good thing, he says, because that means they want help. Law enforcement says other efforts like the gang task force are leading to a reduction in violence. But with fewer resources, it's going to take a united front to combat the violence and develop a comprehensive plan for fighting youth violence.
I mean, we have a lot of programs here where we have partners, and so many other areas try to go it alone. But what you're seeing today is a broad collaboration across our county departments, but also with a lot of the community stakeholders.
If you can't get the money right now, there needs to be a strategy in the county as the revenues go up when the economy comes back. If priority number one is public safety.
And some of the other recommendations included keeping alive the Monterey County Joint Gang Task Force and working with other cities on developing a comprehensive gang violence reduction plan. But of course, Dan, all of this takes money. And another recommendation included continuing to work with federal lawmakers to get more money funneled to the area. Dan?
All right, thank you very much. We are beginning tonight with growing gang violence that is stretching throughout the Central Coast. It was last night 3 more people were shot in Soledad and Salinas, and today many are asking what's behind all this recent violence. Answers from Action News reporter Felix Cortez, who's live in our Salinas newsroom with our top story. Felix?
Well, Dan, police say one word, gangs, but they're not ready to say a gang war is currently underway. Another violent night on the Central Coast Tuesday as 3 people are shot in 2 separate shootings in Soledad and Salinas. In the Salinas shooting, police say the gunmen are suspected of robbing this Arco on North Davis just moments before they shot a man inside his home while women and children lay on the floor.
The majority of these crimes, not only in Salinas, but in the cities that you mentioned, the factor that the common factor in all of these is that there is gang affiliation mentioned.
And it's gang affiliation that police say left men dead in Greenfield, Sand City, and Seaside in recent weeks. Police not ready to say a gang war is currently underway, but they say the crimes are clearly being carried out by gangsters for the benefit of their own gang.
And we may have a team of gangsters that's out, putting in some work. Or, on the other hand, it could be somebody that's coming up and they want to make a name for themselves, and this is how they do it, by committing crimes. We could also have somebody that maybe has been recently been released from prison, that has some work to do, or somehow are directing some of the younger gang members to commit some of these violent crimes.
After Tuesday night's shooting in Soledad, Police Chief Eric Sills says the violence won't stop until people get involved.
It comes with the territory, though. This is just, it's another example, though, of what I think the people have come to accept and tolerate, and it's unacceptable, quite frankly, and we need to have more people come forward.
Police say in nearly every shooting, both the victim and gunman are known gang members, and they say the investigations are hampered by uncooperative victims and witnesses. Dan, Aaron.
All right. Thank you very much, Felix. It's a growing problem, and police say
controversy is escalating over claims of abusive and racist treatment in the state prison system. Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger and state Senate leaders announced this week they're backing a full-scale investigation of alleged racism and cruelty by guards at the High Desert State Prison in Susanville. Officials said the move came in response to a two-part expose published Sunday and Monday by the Sacramento Bee. The Bee investigation found evidence of brutality, cruelty, and corruption by correctional officers at a special behavior modification unit at the prison.
Prisoners described strip searches in a snow-covered exercise yard, as well as guards who assaulted prisoners, tried to provoke attacks between prisoners, and spread human excrement on cell doors. Prisoners depicted an environment of brutality, corruption, and fear that included the withholding of medical care, racial slurs, and an apparent cover-up of abuse allegations by prison officials. The series also described extreme isolation, idleness, and deprivation in similar units at other prisons. Charles Pillar is the investigative reporter at the Sacramento Bee who broke the story. He joins us now from Sacramento. Charles, welcome to Democracy Now! Just lay out what you found.
Well, what I found was a troubling pattern of behavior, particularly at High Desert, but also to some degree extending to other prisons in the California system that have these what were originally called behavior modification units, and then the name was changed some years later to behavior management units as a way of removing the taint from the old days of behavior modification in prisons that involved even more horrific kinds of experiments on prisoners. Now, I originally heard of this story. I heard that a report had been created by the state's own correctional researchers that looked closely at the behavior modification unit at High Desert and found evidence based on the testimony of a number of different prisoners that they had experienced this kind of cruelty and brutality, including beatings, including the shackling of one prisoner and having him be pepper sprayed at point blank range, not decontaminated, and paraded naked through the cell block in a way that that prisoner and others who witnessed the event regarded as a kind of image of modern slavery. This was a pretty alarming set of facts to learn. And so, of course, I wanted to look further. I was able to corroborate all of the stories that the state researchers originally found out, and also extend that to a variety of other very troubling allegations associated with beatings, contamination of food supplies, and probably in some ways the most troubling in a way of these issues was the destruction of evidence associated with the claims and the corruption of the process that prisoners have to be able to protest conditions that they regard as inhumane.
Now, these behavior management units, how do they differ from what's normally referred to, I guess, as isolation cells in these prisons? And what are they supposed to do that's different from those isolation cells?
Yes, well, these units were established, I think, for a good reason, which is that normally in the state prisons here, there are essentially two options. There are the general mainline prisoners, and then there are, for prisoners who break prison rules or are violent, there's something called the security housing unit, sometimes called the hole by prisoners, and also something called administrative segregation. These are very secure areas that are
What's
sort
going
of
on, you
prisons
guys? Welcome
within
back
the
to another
prisons.
episode of Greenlit Gang TV. Much love, much appreciation. Thank you guys so much for checking out the channel today. Really quick, I want to give a humongous shout out to everybody who's listening to this, everybody who has been checking out my content. April, as far as numbers go, was my best month on YouTube. I was bringing it. I was trying to crank out as many as I could, doing as much research as I could. I spent a lot of time on these videos, but you guys also brought it with the amount of support, the likes, the comments, the subscribers. Guys, it just means so much. I have come a lot further than I ever thought I would. And even though my channel's still just a little tiny channel, without you guys, I am nothing. If you're new to this, welcome. I really hope you enjoyed today's video. If you do like it, go check out some of my older stuff. And if you are a returning individual, if you are somebody who has continued to watch my videos, whether it's one of them or whether it's 50 of them, then you already know how much you mean to me. Thank you so much for the continued support. So we are going to be going to Delano, California. I did my last one towards the end of April was we did the Texas Mexican Mafia individual, but we're going back to what we've been doing so far in 2025, and that is covering murders, gang members, just the absolute craziness, the corruption, the stuff that continues to plague the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation. I have said it before. If you have somebody that you love and care about as an inmate, incarcerated individual in California, they are at risk. They truly are. The California prison model has shown to be a complete failure. Yet individuals like Jeff McCumber, the governor Gavin Newsom, will do nothing. They will change nothing. They will continue to just put lipstick on a pig and act like everything's okay. You're going to get that propaganda-based media where these news stories are showing all these individuals, these inmates smiling and doing this and doing that, and it's BS. Lives are being lost at a crazy rate. If you have someone that you care about and love who works within the prison, whether that's a corrections officer, a nurse, someone who's teaching a trade, they are at risk. It's becoming a free-for-all. A channel I support and watch, a guy by the name of Hector Bravo, he's been on this for many years. He's been shouting it out, and it's come at a big cost for him. I encourage you to go check out his channel now. He has a really good breakdown and even more insight because he was a corrections officer for the CDCR for, I believe, 21 or 22 years. Go check out his channel and you'll see what I'm talking about. Today's case is just another example. Very violent individuals. And, I'm somebody who believes in second chances. I do. But when you continue to show who you are and show your true colors, you gotta believe who that person shows you to be. In this new California prison model, they just continue to, they just put the blinders on and pretend everyone's okay, everyone's happy, and we just need to hug these inmates that are violent and have proven to be deadly. So September 20th, 2024, article from the CDCR website, Delano. California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation officials are investigating the September 19th, 2024 death of an incarcerated person at Kern Valley State Prison, KVSP, as a homicide. At 7:20 p.m., staff would discover incarcerated person Jacob Cobber in his cell with his cellmate Matthew Perez, unresponsive with serious injuries. Staff immediately initiated emergency response and would call 911. Medical staff performed life-saving measures on Cobber, who had injuries consistent with an incarcerated manufactured weapon. He was transported to the prison's triage and treatment area for a higher level of care. However, he was pronounced deceased at 7:52 p.m. So, stabbed, attacked, whatever. We don't fully know, but we know Matthew Perez did it at 7:20, and 32 minutes later, Jacob Cobber was pronounced dead by on-scene paramedics. Perez also appeared to have suffered injuries consistent with an incarcerated manufactured weapon. He was alert and taken to an outside medical facility for a higher level of care. No staff or additional incarcerated people were injured. That was a fight to the death, guys. That's what that was. I know you can go, oh, that's a little dramatic to say. No, it's not. That was a fight in a cell between two men, and one of them died. One of them was wounded. And this is what it is, man. It's a gladiator type of atmosphere going on right now. An incarcerated manufactured weapon was found at the scene. The incident is currently under investigation by the KVSP Investigative Services Unit and the Kern County District Attorney's Office. The Office of the Inspector General was notified, and the Kern County Coroner will determine Cobber's official cause of death. Cobber, 35, was received from Alameda County on April 28, 2015, sentenced to life with the possibility of parole for first-degree murder, a second-strike offense, with an enhancement for intentional discharge of a firearm causing great bodily injury. Now, Jacob Cobber's background is crazy and it's violent. They didn't mention this, which is kind of surprising. Normally they do on the CDCR's website. They'll give you also the offenses he committed while in prison, because he did. He actually was responsible for an inmate's death a couple years prior to his own murder. And we've covered a few of these videos, and they never cease to amaze me how these guys come in for murder, these very violent crimes. They end up killing somebody, and then a few years later, they find themselves on the other end of it. It's just, it's a sad existence when you really think about it. Perez, 39, was most recently received from Monterey County on May 7th, 2012. Sentenced to 18 years for assault with a firearm, a second-strike offense with enhancements for Street Gang Act and commission of a violent felony and use of a firearm. Perez was a Norteno gang member. In 2014, and there's a heavy Norteno gang presence within Monterey County. In 2014, while in prison, he was sentenced to 8 years for assault by a prisoner with a deadly weapon or force likely to cause great bodily injury. Also, in 2016, he was sentenced to 2 years for possession of a controlled substance while in prison. You can tell in Perez's mugshot, the one they put up after Cobber's death, the one the media, the news outlets use, that I use, you can see he's high. He's very, very high. He looks to be under the influence of like a heroin, maybe Suboxone, some sort of narcotic for sure, but he's very much under the influence, and I would not say it's going to be methamphetamine or cocaine. He's definitely on some downers. I feel like if you follow my page, follow my content, you're pretty well aware of how easy it is to get drugs within the prison system. But if you aren't, for those of you that maybe are listening for the first time or haven't done as much research, which is totally cool, and I'm really glad you're choosing to watch my videos, drugs are everywhere in prison. You have staff members bringing them in. You have loved ones bringing them in. They're coming through the mail. And no matter how many ways and formulas and so many, all these different ingenious ways that the California Department of Corrections Rehabilitation used to stop and stem the flow of drugs, there's always going to be the next way, the next idea to get the drugs into the prison. Because it's a good way of putting this, and like I've heard, is you have inmates who have all day to think about how they can kill somebody, where they're going to hide their weapons, how they're going to get drugs in, how they're going to get drugs out, how they're going to get a message in, how they're going to get a message out. And with this new California prison model, okay, it makes it easier. And it almost becomes where the inmates are ruling the prison. I don't want to, again, I'm not going to be dramatic. I'm not going to make it that crazy, but it is extremely unsafe. And just look at Matthew Perez's mugshot. He's high. He's high as hell in the picture. You can just tell. As a recovering addict, if you've heard a little bit of my story that I've talked about, I had 5 years sober on March 10th of this year by the grace of God. You can just look at somebody. I feel like, being around it enough, you can, when I meet an individual or I've met somebody, or if I have a friend or a loved one who's struggling with the disease of addiction, I can tell you right away by just looking at their eyes if they're using again. And if you know, you know. Comment down below if you know what I'm talking about. If you have a loved one, if you have a family member, if you have a friend, a coworker who struggled with addiction, I want to know if you guys agree with what I'm saying. I feel like you can look into somebody's eyes and talk to them and know right away, yep, been using. And I'm not being like the most obvious things. I'm saying even when it's not obvious to a lot of people around, if you have been in that fight, if you have struggled yourself, you know what I'm talking about. And, it's just sad. It's very, very sad. And before we go any further, get the help, guys. Reach out. I truly believe, as bad as my situation was, and there was a time where I felt like I did not want to live anymore, that I was able to pull myself up out of it with the support of loved ones and the right people. I feel like anybody can. And I really, really encourage it. I love hearing the comments, reading the comments, hearing from you guys about, hey man, I got 90 days, 30 days, 2 days, 24 hours, 24 minutes. I don't care. Take it 1 minute, 1 hour, 1 day at a time, and, do something positive for yourself, because you guys are worth it. You are absolutely worth it to stay sober. Okay, enough rambling. Let's jump right back into it. But really, guys, you are absolutely worth it. Stay sober. And we will always continue to talk about that on this channel. I've sometimes gotten comments like, hey, man, just stick to the story. But no, we are about recovery as well on this platform, on this channel. I like to talk about recovery. I like to remind all of my followers. I get a lot of people on here that have struggled with addiction. You are worth it. Take 1 day at a time and get the help you need. Reach out to me. Comment down below. I will answer everybody. So, Cobber's background, who I was really able to find a lot of information on him. I did not find a whole lot on Perez. He is a Norteno gang member from Monterey County. I think I found an appeal of his. I just couldn't say for sure if it was, so I did not want to put it into the story. But Cobber, who's the individual that died in this story, I was able to find a lot of information on the initial crime that got him sent to prison for as long as he did, basically with life, with the possibility of parole. And then I was able to find out about the actual murder he committed in prison at Folsom. Okay, so this is an article from December 30th, 2012, right? And this is the story about how Cobber basically killed a very close friend of his on a golf course in Livermore. Police confirmed Sunday that Livermore, California resident Kenneth Robert Ogden was found shot to death Saturday at Springtown Golf Course. He was 28 years old. I was able to find some pictures of him. I put that up. There's just a picture of his face, and there's a picture of him, looks like with his woman and his little one. A woman jogging along the bike path around 7:20 a.m. saw Kenneth Robert Ogden lying near the path and asked a neighbor to call 911, but he was not breathing and could not be revived. Ogden's uncle, Christopher Ogden, posted on Patch that a candlelight vigil is planned for 7 p.m. tonight near where he was found at Bluebell Drive and Scenic Avenue. Based on comments by neighbors who watched the crime scene unfold all day Saturday, the body was of a young man wearing a baseball cap with a backpack and bright red shoes. His friends said Ogden was a 28-year-old father who was a good friend, a good protector, and a beautiful, understanding, and funny individual. However, I'm just going to say this part and then I'll say what I think about it. Others who had said they knew him said they weren't surprised. They weren't surprised to hear about his death. They described him as having gang ties and drug ties, and they just go one and one. However, Livermore police said there was no indication that the homicide was gang-related. Police did not release further details. And you know what? We are going to talk about it. And I might be talking a little bit more today than I normally do, giving you guys my thoughts, but I was friends with individuals, and I know people that, again, they struggle, and it's okay to struggle. You've got a loved one. You're trying to hide your demons from your family and your loved ones, and there's a picture of him. He has a little kid. He's got a child, and but he's obviously got 1 foot in, 1 foot out of the streets, and he might have a drug problem. And so when I read that, I don't go, oh, two-face, or, he wasn't a good person. No. Two things can be true. He struggled. That's what that says. And my heart goes out to stuff like that. He struggled. He was in his 20s. He was trying to figure out what he wanted to do. Had some pressures, like we all do. And this is just a good reminder to talk about addiction and to talk about mental health and to remind yourself that you think it won't happen to you, but it will. You think you won't overdose, but you will. You think you won't get killed in the street because, hey, I'm not a gang member. I don't have no ties. I'm just, moving a little weight, or I'm just a user, and I have to be in some of these areas. But then I get out of here, right? I go right back to the suburbs, or I go right back to my house. No, it takes one time, and you're done. It's over. You only get one life, guys. Make the most of it. Please make the most of it. Okay, so that article is for December 30th, 2012. Fast forward to February 12th, 2015, because these cases always take forever to wind through the courts. Cobber is convicted A Livermore man has been convicted of first-degree murder for the fatal shooting of his former friend in December 2012. And that's what's the crazy part, former friend. Jurors announced their verdict on Monday for 26-year-old Jacob Cobber for the December 28, 2012 death of 28-year-old Kenneth Robert Ogden. Ogden's body was discovered the next morning by a man who lives in Galaxy Court in Livermore and saw him lying on the grass alongside the Springtown Golf Course fairway and neighboring bicycle paths. A woman who had been jogging on the golf course had yelled at the man for help after she spotted the body from afar. The man called police, and officers and paramedics who responded to the scene found Ogden, who lived in Livermore, dead of multiple gunshot wounds. Prosecutors from the Alameda County District Attorney's Office said Cobber and Ogden were longtime friends, but in late 2012 they had a falling out because Ogden owed money to Cobber, and Cobber believed that Ogden had tried to kiss his girlfriend. That is not a typo. That's exactly what that says. Prosecutors said that on the night of December 28, 2012, Ogden came to talk things over with Cobber near the Springtown Golf Course. They said Cobber and Ogden walked out onto the golf course, and Ogden was found dead the next morning, shot once in the left arm and once in the right side. Cobber, who worked as a janitor, fled to Oakland and then to Oregon, where he was arrested on January 16, 2013. So he made like 15, 16 days. And later was extradited back to Cali. Prosecutors said that while Cobber was in Oregon, he sent threatening text messages to some of the witnesses in the case. That's crazy. Cobber faces more than 25 years to life in state prison when he's sentenced by Alameda County Superior Court Judge Morris Jacobson on March 23rd. So he ends up getting sentenced. He ends up getting sentenced for life with parole in 2015. Okay. Now, fast forward 3 years. Folsom. A prisoner serving a life term for murdering a former friend on a Livermore golf course is among 2 inmates suspected in a slaying inside Folsom Prison. Devin Stringfellow, 48, was fatally attacked in an exercise yard Wednesday afternoon at the Max Security Prison east of Sacramento. One of the suspects is Jacob Cobber, who was 29 at the time, who was convicted in the December 2012 murder of Kenneth Ogden, whose body was found at the Springtown Golf Course in Livermore. The other suspect, Stephen Dunkhurst, 49, is serving a life sentence for vehicle theft and weapons conviction in Shasta County. Stringfellow was set to be released in 2020 after completing a 6-year LA County sentence on drugs, weapons, and assault charges. So he's getting close. Had about a year and a half, 2 years. He was stabbed with improvised weapons in Wednesday's attack. Stringfellow was stabbed with improvised weapons in Wednesday's attack. Cobber had been living in Livermore and working as a janitor at the time of the fatal shooting at the golf course. He fled to Oregon and was arrested there the following month. He was convicted in February 2015. During Cobber's trial, Alameda County prosecutors said he had been a longtime friend of his victim, but that the two had a falling out over an unpaid debt and Ogden's alleged past at Cobber's girlfriend. Prosecutors said that while Cobber was in Oregon, he sent threatening messages to some of the witnesses in the case. So, just crazy, sad, absolutely insane story when you really think about it. You think of somebody like a Cobber. When I read about him, he's not all the way there as far as mental. Not like he's dumb or retarded, but he's extremely violent. And to most of us, we've gone through breakups. I've had girlfriends that I've broken up with. I've had girlfriends that broke up with me. I've had friends that ended up getting with their friends' girlfriends. It's just what it is. But this is where certain individuals will take it all the way. Ogden owed money. I'm not gonna speculate all the way, but I'm gonna assume you got somebody like a Cobber who's in the streets, Ogden who seems to trying to maybe get out of the streets, but also is in the streets as well. It's probably a drug debt. It's probably something along those lines. So for Cobber, you've got a guy that not only does he owe you money, and he's disrespecting you by not paying you back, then you hear there might be a possible rumor on the streets, on your guys' little hometown, that Ogden, the fool that owes you money, is trying to make a pass at your girlfriend. When you put it like that, and you get a certain individual like a Cobber, who, for me, it's always in the eyes, man. He's got those kind of beady black eyes. He took it all the way. He took it absolutely all the way. Then got locked up, life without parole or life with parole. But for him, it's like, F it. I'm going to get down with the get down. I'm going to be the meanest, scariest guy I can be because I don't want to be a victim myself, because this And I'm not blaming everything on the California prison model. I am not saying that that is the sole reason for these deaths, but it plays a major, major part in it. And these people like a Cobber, like these other guys, I've covered some of these stories where guys have killed multiple people within the prison system in the last 5 to 10 years. And they get emboldened because they know nothing's really going to happen. Like, what else are you going to do to somebody who's got life? What else are you going to do? It's just, they're not going to go put them in isolation forever because of the new California prison model. They know that's not going to happen to them. So anyway, there you guys have it. Much love. I really appreciate the support. I'm going to be cranking these out this month. I am going to be gone for a couple days this weekend. So if I don't get one up as quick as I normally do, that is why. Much love, much appreciation. Until next time, peace.